things are going on as we conjure up the ghosts of presenters past.
Oh, we're looking at the latest ghostly games, including Alone in the Dark 3.
And if that isn't scary enough, try this. It's the tallest roller coaster in the world, and later I'll be explaining why it went wrong. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the great magician Andy Arno will conjure a ghost before your very eyes. And those of you watching distantly on television devices, please note that there is no camera trickery involved whatsoever. Very good, marvellous, bravo! A talented man, he'll go far. But if he didn't use camera tricks, and he didn't, how did he perform the trick? Well, I shall show you. It's a very famous effect. It's called Pepper's Ghost. It was first performed in 1863. It works on a simple principle. This isn't just an empty cabinet. There is, in fact, a sheet of glass diagonally across it. Ghostly Violet? Well, she's just over to the right there. And to make her appear, you just turn the lights up on Violet. She's reflected in the glass, and it looks like she's off behind the cabinet like that. It's very simple, but very effective. Pepper's Ghost produces what's called in the trade a virtual image. That is, one that appears to be behind the glass. You can't reach out and touch it. Violet, thank you. Violet will let you know. There's another version of this trick which produces what's called a real image. That is, one that floats in midair, one that you think you can reach out and touch. I'll show you how it works. Put our can of drink in here. Close the wee door. Now, for this to work, I'll have to have two things. A, Les on camera 2 will have to come really close. And B, can we have the studio lights down, please? Now, if you were here, you should be able to see that can of Coke suspended, say, 12 or 13 centimetres in front of this box. It looks like it's in midair. It's terribly clever. Look, this tracing paper will reveal more. As I bring the tracing paper forward, as it passes through the plane where the can is, the can will come into focus. So just about there. There it is. And that paper is about 13 or 14 centimetres in front of the box. It's really effective. It looks like you can get hold of the can, but of course it's not there. Why are we showing you all this on Bad Influence? Well, a British company has just come up with a more advanced version of this trick, one that produces real images from video.
And this is it. It's called SIS, or Suspended Image System, and we're using it to show Mickey Mania, which we'll be reviewing later in the programme. Now, as with Andy's device, the image hangs in midair, and it's just there. It's very difficult to show on TV, actually. You'll see it better if we move the camera around a bit. This display unit is just a prototype, but they're planning to make the image much brighter and life-size. And they're even planning a TV version, so you can show TV pictures like this.
Aha, 'tis I. Now, because you can use the SIS for any TV or video picture, one of the proposed uses for it is in advertising displays.
And it'll even be possible to interact with a suspended image using a kind of touch-screen technology.
Get off, Violet, your nails are sharp.
Hello, Furtling fans, and welcome to the Namrud Cheat Show. Oh, yes, sneak, sneak, blurp. And I've got some spanking cheats for you. Rivet glove nose, including this one for the Addams Family on the SNES, which powers you up with 5 lives and only Morticia to find. Woof, woof. On the password screen, just type in BLJ1 and 2, and then when you start to play, you'll get 5 lives. Beep, 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 beep. I'm not completely mad, you know.
From one head case to another, because our main review this week is Dynamite Headdy on the Mega Drive. Surely one of the strangest characters ever to appear on the system. He's a toy who's using his head to defeat the evil King Dark Doll, quite literally. When danger threatens, Headdy flings his bombs at the baddies, and he can swap heads to get different power-ups. Early on in the game, you visit 3 practice rooms where you find the friends who will aid you in your quest. For instance, this is Headcase, who carries your spare power-up heads, and this is Bo, a little Cupid character who shows you where to fling your heads. The game has a very distinctive look. It's sort of Monty Python meets Wurzel Gummidge. But how does it play? Well, who else could we get to review a game like this but Adam?
Whoever wrote this was probably dropped on the head when they were a child. This is the strangest game I've seen in a long time, but it's actually very good. To climb up a vertical wall, you need to use one of these, a spike head. It's one of the 18 heads in the game. Some of them are good for you, but some of them aren't, and they'll only get you killed. That there is a head case. By shooting it, you can change which head you're using. Right now, I've got to get a weapon head to kill this snake, which comes with monster fireballs from the depths of hell. This is another mad idea. To go to the next level, you're pulled into it by your arch enemy, Trouble Brewing the Cat. This is a vacuum cleaner head, one of the best weapons in the game. It lets you suck in all the enemies, and it's got to be in competition to be one of the best weapons in any computer game ever. This is a nice game, very original, but some people would find it just too difficult to be bothered with.
It's not a very easy game to play, but it's worth persevering with because it's got so many brilliant ideas in it.
It gives me a headache just watching it. It's the most wonderfully bizarre game I've ever seen, and it's the most original platform out.
And the scores for Dynamite Headdy, both the boys and the girls gave it a psychedelic 4 out of 5. So, pretty good scores there for Dynamite Headdy. Now, about 6 months ago, the tallest roller coaster in the world was opened in Blackpool amidst a great fanfare of publicity. It's called the Pepsi Max Big One. It's controlled by computer and it's a mile long. Now, you may remember that back in July there was an accident involving one set of cars crashing into another set. An accident that shouldn't have been possible. Now, only recently the ride's been reopened, and Andy went along to find out exactly how the impossible happened.
Unless you've been playing theme park 24 hours a day, you can't fail to know that the world's tallest roller coaster, the big one in Blackpool, has been experiencing a few problems this summer. So I've come to check out what went wrong and what they've done to put it back on the right track. At busy periods, they can run 3 trains at once on this ride, and that has its problems because these trains don't have any power of their own, they don't have any drivers, they don't have any engines, and most importantly, they don't have any brakes either.
You might think that once the cars are released from the top, they will always go at the same speed and therefore take the same time to get back to the station. If only it were that simple. 2 things affect the speed of the cars: friction and wind resistance. On a cold, dry day, the oil in the bearings of the wheels will be stiffer and give you a slower ride. If it's just rained, the track will be slightly slippy and you'll go faster.
As for wind resistance, well, an empty car travels faster than a full one, and enthusiasts who put their arms in the air like this shouldn't, because it makes the car run slower.
So, for speed, sit at the front of an empty car on a hot, airless day after a shower and keep your head down.
Well, so much for fun. Behind the scenes, or should that be above the scenes, the watchword is very definitely safety. Every metre of the 1.5 kilometre track is rigorously checked every day. And I can tell you that this bit's fine, so can I come down now? The track's divided into sections and the brakes are put at the end of each section, generally at the higher points of the track. That makes braking easier because at the high points the cars are running slower.
The brakes ensure that the cars are at the right speed for the start of the next block. Every morning before they take on passengers, the operators check that the emergency stop procedures are working correctly.
These sensors monitor the speed and presence of each train, and they can tell the difference between a moving train and a resting seagull. You could employ people to monitor the trains as they go all the way around the ride, but you need an awful lot of them and it'd be a very boring job. So instead, they use computers. This looks after the management of the ride. It's called a PLC, Programmable Logic Controller. It's basically a computer with a permanently programmed set of instructions. The controller gets information from the sensors all the way around the ride and compares what's actually happening with what it knows should be happening. It's supposed to shut down the whole system if there's ever a mismatch in that comparison. But in July, a train was held here and another train came and ran into the back of it. Nobody was seriously hurt, but quite a few people were badly shaken up. Computers don't break down, do they? So what went wrong? What they've since found out is that a sensor failed in the final section of the track just before the station. The logic controller sensed this and operated the brakes up here as a failsafe, which is what it was designed to do. What it didn't do, however, was to stop the train that was up here completely. So it ran on around the track and ran into the train in front, just in front of the station, at between 5 and 10 miles an hour.
The accident could have been a lot more serious if it had happened higher up the ride. After the crash, they discovered that the brakes hadn't been applied early enough or hard enough when the sensor failed.
Were you surprised when the ride went wrong?
It's a very complicated ride. We're obviously very disappointed that it went wrong, and we're trying to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Well, the ride is back in business with a few changes. The brakes have been improved, there's a new watchdog computer checking the first computer, and when they're running more than one train, they've introduced a special new sensor, a man with a stop button. This is Andy Crane watching the man, watching the computers, watching the big one for Bad Influence in Blackpool.
Wow, that looks absolutely brilliant. I'm dead jealous, actually. How many times did you go on it to make the film?
About 9 or 10 to make the film, and I'd have done it more if they'd asked me as well.
So you felt safe?
Completely, utterly, and totally. It's a fabulous ride. And if you're ever in Blackpool, check it out. Now, time for this week's News and Previews.